All right, come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Happy Tuesday to everybody, man. How is everybody doing? We have a special guest today. Listen, this is not a unfamiliar face. This is a very familiar face. This guy, his name is Chris Trevino. He works for USCFootball.com 24/7 Sports, and he is a writer from both. And you guys, most people seen him on a podcast as well, heavily in recruiting. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on. I don't do live a lot. I've taken a step back from doing live. I used to do live all the time with the Peristyle podcast. For anyone that used to watch me on the Peristyle podcast, but I came out of semi-retirement for USCJ because he asked me to come on, and he's well respected in the Twitter space, the USC, space. So I said, you know what, I got to come on. I got to put myself on this show, which is very popular. So I had to come on USCJ.
Well, look, Chris, man, we definitely appreciate you, man, and we want to get your insight, your perspective today. There are quite a few people already coming in, already 47 in right now, but we want that number to go up. But listen, we want to jump right into it, Chris. And there is, this is ever changing in college football, man, and I guess the first thing is that it never ceases to really have a break. And now I saw where the NIL is now changing. Of course, you guys know the transfer portal is already something that keeps you all constantly busy. But listen, the NIL now, no restrictions. And I want to kind of get into that first. I want to talk about, because you guys already had Jennifer Cohen on your show, and Jennifer Cohen kind of gave you some insights as to USC's approach right now. And I want to know, what do you think our approach would be as it relates to the NIL?
It's fascinating, and obviously it's probably the most significant thing that's happened in NIL since NIL first started. Like, this is the first major thing that has happened. It's like this giant thing where it's like, this is the wild wild west, and the courts basically just made it even more wild. There is no restrictions. There's nothing holding people back, and it feels like everyone's kind of looking at each other like, okay, what's going to happen? And for USC, as we know, has always been, hesitant to really jump into the NIL space as far as other schools have done it. When we're talking about, high school, paying high school players, there are plenty of programs that are full off and running going with this strategy. And we know who those schools are. I don't have to name them off the top, but you probably know who they are. And USC, obviously, they've been burned by the NCAA, with their sanctions and everything. So they have been very staying on the safe side. They always want to stay on the safe side. And it always felt like they were, at least when I would listen to Lincoln Riley talk, and even when Jennifer Cohen was talking, it always felt like they were waiting for that big change to come from the NCAA. And I feel like they were hoping, or they were banking on it being more restrictions or more regulation or more structure to the NIL system, because as we talked about, it was wide open before this big landmark decision came down. Now it's even more open. It's gone in the exact opposite way. There's no restrictions. There's no structure. It's just a free-for-all. And will USC take the plunge into the free-for-all? I don't really know. It's so early right now. It's USC is going to do their own thing. I'm just like, my first reaction is they're going to still be hesitant. I don't really know what's going to happen with them. Lincoln Riley seems to want to do it his way, and his way isn't paying the high school route, like as other programs. So now that the bumpers are down, to say, for NIL, I just feel like USC is still going to take a cautious approach. Maybe we'll see that change down the road. Maybe they're just going to feel it out a little bit over the next couple of months. Summer's coming up, official visitors. It's going to be a busy time, and especially with this new decision, the summer's going to be crazy. The summer's going to be crazy with all these schools going crazy now that NIL is even more wide open than before. So I'm interested to see how USC's mindset changes over the next couple of months. Kids are going to be coming up. The dead period's about to end. Maybe that's a topic that's going to come up when these kids and these trainers and these parents get on campus for spring. And, maybe that's going to start to shape the conversations that USC has in their internal offices.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I'm gonna be getting some of these super chats in between. Blackie Chan, he says, "Hey, this is the sight to see. Fight on USCJ and Chrissy." Hey, Blackie Chan, thank you very much. You know, Chris, to your point, and this is my fear. If we don't jump on board at some point and really try to take advantage and as you stated, you know, because I remember when this thing first started, it started, you know, we had the state out operation going, and then we had different aspects of the collectives going on. And you know, the whole thing, the message was, you know, we want to kind of, to your point, we want to stay in a safe place, a safe zone, to where we don't of course, you guys already know the Reggie Bush thing that happened with us at USC. So a lot of, yes, there is some rightfully so fear behind that. However, as the language states within this new um, uh, uh, decision that came down from Congress for the federal government, there are no restrictions right now. So meaning that in between this time, anything that we do right now, there can be no penalty. I mean, can they come back? From your understanding, can they come back and penalize, you know, guys for? I'm just saying, in the event that people were to do, I guess, the pay for play type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one of the big talking points about this is that this blow against this legislative blow against the NCAA, like, does this finally kill the NCAA? Like, does this even matter for the NCAA moving forward? Will they have any semblance of power moving forward after being essentially neutered in front of the entire college football world? You know, the courts just said they can't do anything. They can't do anything about that. Now that that's been out there, like, what sort of respect and power can the NCAA have moving forward? I just don't see their path back to being, you know, this overarching legislative body over college football. Not when, you know, the courts are saying no, it doesn't matter. They have no ruling over this. It's just a completely different space than they've been used to for the last however many years they existed. Now that NIL and paying players is coming to it, it is just fundamentally changed everything about how everyone views the NCAA. Everyone, you know, thinks the or not thinks, but NCAA is this corrupt organization. They have no power. They're just this thing that shouldn't exist anymore. And now that this has happened, I don't really see a path back for the NCAA to be powerful or have any power. So I'm going to say no. I don't think this is going to be a thing where they can retroactively punish people, because I just don't see them getting that power back anytime soon. And that's why people have been calling for, you know, the big NCAA, the government, to step in and kind of be the ones to regulate all this, as we're moving into a completely different territory in terms of college sports and amateurism and, you know, employees and, you know, making college athletes employees and all that. That's now you got to get the big government involved. So I
Yeah,
think the NCAA is, you know, we're going to be talking about how the NCAA is long gone sooner rather than later.
no doubt. And if you remember, I guess a couple of weeks ago, it might have been last week. It seems like the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to become their separate entity, if you will. They kind of had I don't know, I can't remember the language. It might have been like a pact. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Something they just did. I think it was last week, but they wanted to meet. They wanted to meet and try to. And I think it was more so like safeguards against the NCAA and some of the things. This was when everything first broke out with Tennessee, because everything happened around the California kid Nico, and
No.
they wanted to try to put some safeguards in place against the NCAA. And I guess this is what Nick Saban. I guess this is what Nick Saban was kind of, you know, fearing, and one of the reasons why, you know, he was going to Congress. But you know, apparently that didn't work out for him, because I mean, at the end of the day, we see exactly what's happening now. It seems like all this is really backfiring, and you know, it is what it is. In between, I will get some of these questions. This is Jamel Clark. He says, "Hey, thank you, Jamel." He says, "Chris, can you share any memorable stories, experiences you had while covering USC football?"
Oh yeah, I mean, I got tons of stories. I have funny stories. I think like my first like I don't want to say magical, but like this is so awesome that I get to cover college football was my first year, the Sam Darnold year, 2016. I know everyone, you know, remembers that season, you know, where they started 1-3 and they won all these games. They went to the Rose Bowl. And I was at the Rose Bowl, and I had food poisoning. I got food poisoning, and I was feeling like crap most of the game. But then I rushed down to the field for the final 5 minutes, and I got to see that wild ending. I got to take video of that Deontay Burnett touchdown, and I got to go on the field and record all these fun moments of Deontay Burnett with his family and everyone just going ballistic after USC had just won the Rose Bowl in this crazy comeback, one of the an iconic Rose Bowl game over Penn State, and just like being on the field, I completely forgot I was sick. I completely forgot I was sick. But then after all the adrenaline rush, I was like, I'm so sick, I have to go home. So that was a weird night. Just like getting to cover, one of the greatest college football games I covered in person,
Yeah.
but also having food poisoning at the same time. So
Yeah.
that was a really fun season and a great season to start my USC career off with. What a great year.
Yeah, no doubt. That's crazy, man. Shout out to my guy Anthony Beavers. That's Anthony Beavers Sr. Anthony Beavers is his dad. What's up, man? How you doing, man? That's my guy right there. And shout out to Christian, just supporting my guy. Hey, thank you for the super chat. And so, Chris, you work for 24/7 Sports, man, and it puzzles me when I look at the different rating systems, man. And 24/7 has one, On3 has one, and then you see ESPN and then Rivals. So how does that come together as far as the star system is concerned? Because there's some guys on our in our recruiting class like a Desmond Stevens, Elijah Newby. There's some very, very underrated guys, man. That really, I just feel like these guys are really, really undervalued. I would even say Braylon Conley's undervalued for his play. What's your thought on that? As some of the guys that we have that are underrated, and then what's your thoughts on like how do you guys come up with the rating system? I know it's not you, but it's the network or however they do it.
By the rating system, do you mean how does we determine one player as a 3-star as opposed to a 4-star? Like, so how do they earn their stars?
Right.
And I just want to say, if I had $1 for every time someone asked me how do I get stars, I could retire right now. I could buy a house next to Lincoln Riley's house. That's how many times I get this question. But what I tell people, and again, I don't do stars. That's for people way above my pay grade, the Greg Biggins of the world, those people. A lot of it is based off your high school film. Obviously, a lot of it is also based off seeing you in person, but high school film is like the starting point. Let's say I've never heard of you and I get your film because you're always watching film in the off season. I get your film in my inbox, or I'm just going through a bunch of huddle film. And I see your film. You're this junior I've never heard of. You're the sophomore I never heard of, and I'm watching your film. It's like, wow, this is really good film. And I'm checking, it's not sped up, because we've seen huddle film that it's like sped up slightly to make them look faster than they are. And you're looking at it, it's like, okay, this person looks great on tape. And then you hope you can get them. You can see them at a camp or a showcase or, an Under Armour regional camp or the opening or something like that. So you can see them in person. You see, because, yeah, you can see them on film, but there's nothing like seeing someone in person. So camp evaluations is part of it, but just being able to get your eyes on them and see how they move in a camp setting. Obviously, it's a camp, 7-on-7, football and underwear. It's not like real football, but you get to be able to see somebody move and how their body works. And, I can tell if this person's going to keep growing. I can tell if they have bad weight on them. I can tell if they have a room to add a lot of weight. So seeing them in person is obviously a big part of it. And then just seeing them play high school football live, like going to a game. That's why we're always at games on a Friday night. We want to see these kids in person. We want to see them in high pressure situations. We want to see, what's this kid doing on a big 4th and down? You're a pass rusher. Do they get to the quarterback? Do they impact the play? What are they doing in those big moments on the field? A lot of that goes into it as well. It's like, is this guy a playmaker? Does this guy, shy away from when the moment is on him, or there's a big moment in the game? A lot of that goes into it. So a lot of it's just film, and then seeing these people in person are kind of the two big components where we, figure out, oh, this person's 3-star, this person's high 4-star, maybe they'll be a 5-star, but we want to see that at the end of the season, and just production as well. You can have an okay season as a junior, but if you ball out as a senior, we talk about how you always want to recruit the best high school seniors in the country. You want those guys who are producing in their final year. So not a guy who's, seeing his production trend down. You want a guy who's playing their best ball as a high school senior.
Yeah, no doubt. So some underrated guys that you probably project out right now in our class from this year. I know last year I had guys like Elijah Hughes. I mean, he to me, I saw him, man, and his step was next level. He has a first step that's crazy, and then we see him with lifting the weights, man. It's unbelievable. Who are some of the underrated guys this year? Braylon Shelby, too, by the way. He was underrated to me as well. But who are some of the guys this year that are underrated?
And we're talking 2024 or 2025?
2024.
Yeah, so I mean, Desmond Stevens is a name that I always come back to for a guy that they sign. You watch his tape. I talk about watching tape, and it's like, this is incredible tape. Why doesn't he have an offer from every Big Ten program? He's in Michigan. He's right there in their backyard.
Yeah.
How does he not have an offer from every Big Ten program in the country? I don't know. I just don't know. And you talk about a guy who can do so much. He started out as a wide receiver, started out as like a safety, and he returns kicks and punts, and he plays running back, and then he moved to linebacker, and he was just so productive. Whatever he played at, he was good at it. And that's like a pure football player, just a guy who could do everything on the field. And you don't really think about position with him. You're just like, I got to get this kid. I got to grab him.
Yeah.
Dan Tinlin said something about that, and Coach N said something about that. It's like, don't put these kids in a box when you sign them.
Right.
Don't say, I need a Mike linebacker. Let's go find a Mike linebacker. If you can't play Mike linebacker, well, then he's useless to us. Just grab kids you like and then fit them into what your scheme calls for. Or, oh, he's a Mike now, but maybe he's getting a little bigger. Maybe we're going to make him a Will or a Sam or whatever. Or maybe he's going to be a pass rusher. Who cares? Just get these kids. Don't put them in a box when you recruit them. And then you can open so many possibilities of how you can use them in your scheme, especially Dan Tinlin's scheme, which is very flexible. And he's talked about how, there's flexibility built into it. So just go get kids you like. Don't worry about where you're going to play them. Just know that he'll be a linebacker or he'll be a quarterback. Maybe we'll make him a safety. Just have an open mind to what these kids can grow into. And I think you'll have a lot better success recruiting.
No doubt. I totally agree about Desmond Stevens. I kind of feel like Elijah Newby is kind of in the same category. I don't know what position he's going to play. If he's going to play linebacker, safety, edge. I mean, he's so athletic, but he's so physical and big. And he's very aggressive on the field, man. What he does on the field, I'm very impressed. I think we got a couple of guys like that. I think Jaden Walker as well, out of the state of Michigan. He's kind of maybe in that same category as well. You think him as well?
Yeah, Jaden is a fascinating addition. Obviously, kind of one of the last guys they signed there in the February signing period. 6'3", 200 pounds, maybe 210, raw. He started out as a wide receiver, but just watch his tape. He's so violent. Like, I'm talking really violent. Like, go watch his clips. There's a clip, the third clip, he's like knocking. He's running. He ran into an offensive lineman so hard he knocked his helmet clean off.
Yeah.
Like, you can't teach violence like that. So, again, he's probably going to need time to develop. I'm going to be honest. But 6'3", 210 pounds, maybe he's an inside linebacker, kind of feels like he's going to play an outside backer in Dan Tinlin's scheme. Put some weight on him, get him up, 30, 40 pounds. You already have that great athleticism. He's a wide receiver, like I said. You already have that great foundation of being a violent player on defense. Just like I said, go get the kids you like. You got the great length. You got those instincts. You have that violence to play linebacker. Figure out what he's going to be like later. Get him in the weight room and then figure out what he's going to be later. Yeah, I like Jaden Walker a lot. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get on the field. And like you said, I also love Elijah Newby. I can't not talk about Elijah Newby.
He's
6'4".
Yeah.
Runs sub 11 as a 100 meter. That's like ridiculous athleticism. I think he's going to play early. I don't know where, like you said.
If you would have had a guess, where would you project him to play at? I mean, he, like you said, I think he ran a 10.9 at one point. He is crazy fast. Like, if you just had one position to put him at, what position would that be?
I mean, I think I'm just making him an outside linebacker because, I can rush him off the edge. I can drop him in coverage. I can put him on a big tight end. He's huge and he's fast. So or maybe I'm making him like a hybrid safety kind of a linebacker kind of role.
That's kind of like I said, Sewell Craven's type of guy.
Yeah. So I'm not putting him in one spot. I'm doing a bunch of different things with him because that's the kind of player he is. So I love Elijah Newby. I think he's going to play. I think he could be like a special teams dog this year just because of his speed and get him some experience being a gunner or something. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Elijah Newby and Desmond Stevens in that linebacker room, kind of where they fit, and if they can get on the field, especially as a special teams player, contributor in year one.
Yeah, no doubt. I totally agree with you on that. Super Max, thank you very much for the super chat. Sean, you said, "What's up, Jay and CT? Got to support the Trojan family. Fight on. Got fitting for the running back. Oh, we're gonna talk about that. We're getting ready to talk about that. And so real quick, I want to move on to Benny Wiley, man. One of the things that I noticed real big in the offseason, well, just period. To me, in my mind, Benny Wiley has got a bad rap. Let me say this: we got 144. Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you guys share. Benny Wiley has got a bad rap as it relates to some of the players being smaller. In my opinion, and kind of what I alluded to on the video that I've done, I talked about Benny Wiley having directives to have players a particular way, which was a smaller player. And so now, crazy and oddly enough, we're starting to see pictures of all these guys come out. And Braylon Conley actually texted me, by the way, and told me he picked the other day, Saturday, and said he picked up 9 pounds, I think. And he has some of that program that he's following, as well as, of course, I think Marquise Gallegos, he's picked up some weight. Bear Alexander's picking up some weight. I don't know what Elijah Hughes' weight is right now, but he looked like he's picking up some crazy weight, and he's putting up 6 plates. I saw him do 6 plates more than anybody on the team the other day. So that guy may be, I mean, who knows what he is, but it seems like Benny Wiley is now putting his new orders into play, and these guys are looking bigger. What's your thoughts on Benny Wiley? And what's up, Fight on Rusty? Rusty, what's the word, my man? What's your thoughts on Benny Wiley?
Look, I understand, I've seen the Benny Wiley hate. I've seen the anti-Benny Wiley agenda, but I just don't understand how you can fault someone who is just taking the orders that has been issued to him. And Lincoln Riley is his boss. Alex Grinch was his boss. They're coming to him and they're telling him, these are the kind of players that we want. We're specifically talking about defensive players in this sense, because Alex Grinch in his scheme called for smaller players. So smaller players with speed over size. So what is Benny Wiley going to do? He's going to mold the players as he's been directed to. I want them leaner. I want them quicker. So that's what Benny Wiley produced. Now, and Benny Wiley's talked about this a little bit, they're going in the direction of bigger. This is what Lincoln Riley wants. This is the new direction. You're a strength and conditioning coach. You know how to get players bigger. You know how to get them smaller. You know how to get them faster. This is what it's been directed for him. Get these guys bigger, and you're seeing early results. Yeah, you talked about like the freshmen that have come in. Marquise Gallegos is already up, 15, 12 pounds, and he's only been there in a short amount of time. Imagine all these other guys that have, this is a new era of big boy football for them. This is going to be bigger, bigger, bigger. Got to be bigger in the Big Ten. I don't really see how anyone could be mad at Benny Wiley, because this was just what he was being directed to do. I want them smaller, so I'm going to make them smaller. Now they're telling me to make them bigger. Now we're going to see if it doesn't happen. Now you can probably be mad at Benny Wiley, because now he's been directed to make them bigger. Now this is the real thing you should be judging him on. How big can he get these guys?
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned bigger. And with that being said, we know that there is another window coming up, and I believe it's April. Is it April 19th or April 16th transfer portal window? Is that when the other window opens up?
Yeah, I don't know the exact date, but it'll be the end of spring camps, essentially.
Right. So what position, if we don't touch the roster at all, and we can only have what we have right now? I don't even know where we're at scholarship-wise. Last time I checked, it was like 82. Is it around there or something like that?
Yeah, the last time we checked, I think there was 4 open spots. So I think there's 4 spots.
81 then.
Yeah, 81. That was the last time we did it a couple of weeks ago, and there hasn't been any changes that I know of. So I'm keeping 4 in my mind until we see otherwise. Maybe, when they come up with the spring roster, there'll be some, defections we'll see. And I think there'll be at least a couple after spring. So
Right.
right now I'm going into the spring thinking there's 4 roster spots available, 4 scholarships available for USC.
Okay. So what positions of need with those 4 spots do you think USC should possibly fill?
Well, if you could only, the 2 top for me would be another big defensive lineman, an
Mhm.
interior defensive lineman, another 300-pound plus guy. You have Bear Alexander, who's gotten bigger. You have Isaiah Rakes, who came in at 320 plus pounds. I think you want another one. You want another one to kind of maybe flip with Isaiah Rakes, give him some rest from time to time. He's going to get worn down. You want to have at least 2 of those big bodied guys to go in there. So I'm trying to get another big interior defensive lineman. I want another experienced offensive tackle. I want an offensive tackle. The line was really inconsistent last year. There's potential for it to take a step forward next year, but it's going to be the Big Ten. You saw what they were able to do in the Holiday Bowl. It was one of the most consistent performances we've seen from the O-line. You got Jonah Monheim back, but you still need a little bit of help. You have Emmanuel Pregnon back. I don't know what they're really going to do at center. We're going to see that in the spring, but I think you need to grab another offensive tackle, another big
Yeah.
offensive tackle. I think Jonah's best position will be interior. He can play left tackle. If you can get a left tackle, if you can get a Marcus Bryant, like that would be massive.
Yeah. He's the guy. He's the guy. He's the guy that really be targeting right now.
Yeah,
No
if you can
doubt.
get him, that'd be a massive home run. You don't have to worry about your left tackle. Then you have so much more freedom to play around with it. You have Pregnon coming back. He's going to be one of your guards. Monheim could be your right tackle, but maybe you throw out Elijah Page. Maybe, Mason Murphy. He's going to step up to be a full-time starter. Gino Quinones could be the center. If you can get another big offensive tackle to fill one of those 2 spots, preferably left, I think you're off and running for a good old line next season. So those are the 2 spots I would fill. You also need another running back. You have 3 freshmen on the roster right now. 2 being redshirt freshmen and Quentin Joyner and Marion Peterson to go with Brian Jackson, the true freshman. And then you have JoJo Marks. So you need another veteran guy because I don't think you want to really rely on the freshman if something happens to JoJo. I think he's going to be good, but I think you need a different kind of back compared to him, more like a scat back, really good pass catcher. I think you need a more traditional kind of running back, like an Austin Jones kind of guy. So I would spend one on a running back, just give you 2 veterans. And then that 4th one right now, I know a lot of people, maybe throwing out quarterback or just get another body in there. I think they're fine with 3. I would go wide receiver, to be honest. I know you're going really young with the talented guys you have, but I would want another veteran because you don't have a lot of veterans in that room. And you got Jaden Richardson, he's coming from Division III. He's a veteran guy, but I think you want another Power 5. I think you want a Power 5 guy to come in who has experience. Just to, they don't need to start. They like a Terrell Bynum kind of guy, just to be an older voice in that room and someone they can kind of depend on, be in that rotation. So I think that 4th one I would kind of think about maybe grabbing a veteran wide receiver.
All right. Yeah. I see exactly what you're saying as far as it relates to that. As far as the position battles, there are several storylines when you're talking about position battles right now. You got guys like Humphreys that came, DeCarlos Nicholson at cornerback as well. You got Ramsey, and of course you got the Arnold brothers. You got Anthony Beavers back there. You got Zion Branch. You got Christian Pierce. I mean, the safety room is loaded. Like, which position battle are you most interested in looking at this coming spring? Which one do you think is going to be the one that USC fans need to eye on?
Yeah, I think it mainly comes down to defense. I think because obviously it's a new scheme. We're really interested to see what the defense is going to look like, who's playing where. I just think like the entire secondary is going to be fun to watch. I know Kamari Ramsey, you feel like pretty good about him being penciled as a starter. I know John Humphreys obviously has the experience too, but I think cornerback battle is going to be really fun. They're coming off such a good high at the end of the Holiday Bowl with those guys and how they played. Jacoby Covington, a lot of confidence there in the end. Jalen Smith in that safety room, I know they brought Akili Arnold in, and a lot of guys are, Kamari Ramsey, who's going to take over for Kalen Bullock, Zion Branch, getting him back healthy. Jalen Smith coming off like really an MVP performance, defensive MVP in the Holiday Bowl. He could be in for a big season. That safety room is going to be fascinating. Anthony Beavers had a great game in that Holiday Bowl. Not a lot of
Yeah.
people are talking about him.
I mean, he was physical, man. You got to give it to him. He
Yeah.
was extremely physical. I'm curious about Jalen Smith and Anthony Beavers. Where you see, because Jalen Smith played at the nickelback spot. So, and we know what happened with the Holiday Bowl where he was at. He looked good at safety. You know what I mean? I mean, he really looks good. I mean, the combination of Anthony Beavers and Jalen Smith, both of those guys, and of course Prophet Brown. But it's like, okay, we know that we have Ramsey coming in. Both Ramsey and Arnold just named on PFF top 10 list this past week as far as transfer guys. There, I think Akili Arnold's actually number 5 or 6, and then Ramsey's number 7 as far as the top 10 transfer safeties. So you're talking about 2 high caliber safeties. I'm wondering where Jalen Smith, and I guess it depends on how this defensive staff is going to structure, like a 4-3, how it's going to be structured. Where a guy like Jalen Smith plays, because I mean, that dude is a dog.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Jalen when they signed him. Just so athletic, like just a freak athlete that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but he's a really, really good athlete. And he's not the biggest safety, but his speed and his athleticism, can make him a menace to kind of these bigger tight ends or bigger receivers that he goes up against. So, but his versatility is also there. I mean, Doug Belk said it recently that he could play safety, nickel, or cornerback. There was talks that he was initially going to be a cornerback when he came in to USC. So I wouldn't count that out, than him moving out there. But again, versatility in this D'Anton Lynn scheme. D'Anton Lynn is a safety coach by trade, so I'm really interested to see what he does with Jalen Smith and that whole room in general, because there's so many different body types. We're not even talking about Christian Pierce. No guy, unfortunately, that was
I love that guy, man. I really do.
He's you call him we're talking about under the radar guys when he was signed in the 2023 class. Underrated guy, and unfortunately, he got hurt at the end of the year, wasn't able to play in the Holiday Bowl. But I assume he would have started in that Holiday Bowl if he was healthy, and he got playing time on special teams. But another guy that could come in and have a really big spring camp and a name to watch. There's just so many names to watch in that.
Zion Branch. I mean, he was hurt as well, and it's like that room is loaded. I guess that is the probably going to be the toughest battle. It's probably going to be the safeties. I mean, hands down. Now, the other battle I want to talk about, or should I classify it as a battle? Because some say that Miller already established himself, what he did in the Holiday Bowl. He's already pretty much won the job. Now, here's my perspective on it. I feel like what Miller did, this is where I give Miller the edge. I feel like Miller won the locker room, just given the fact that they love Miller. They want to play for Miller. I feel like he's established himself as a leader, and he showed leadership skills. And I feel like Miller Moss, he just got rid of the ball extremely quick, and he ran Lincoln Riley's offense. I think all of that is an edge to Miller Moss. However, when you look at 6'4", 230 pounds, Jaden Mayava, I kind of feel like him as well. Thrown over as a freshman, 3,000 yards, and you did it against a pretty powerful team, a team like Kansas who beat Oklahoma. I think this is a kid that can play as well. Is it just a given in your opinion, or do you see a real competition? Because Lincoln Riley talked about a competition.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to go through spring and they're going to treat it like a competition. But I think everyone knows it's Miller Moss's job to lose. Jaden Mayeva, really, you mentioned the measurable 6'4", big arm, can run a little bit, but he's still so young. And Miller Moss this will be his 3rd season in the system.
Right.
And he has literally all the confidence in the world and all the momentum going into the spring camp. And like you said, the locker room is just behind him.
Absolutely.
They will run through a brick wall for Miller Moss. And that is worth a lot in a football team, just in any team in general, just to have one of your leaders at a quarterback position, being a guy that everyone is rallying around and like wants them to be the guy. And I was down there the sideline for the Holiday Bowl. That was Miller Moss's sideline. Make no
Yeah, no doubt.
mistake about it. That was his sideline. He was barking up the sideline, going up to all the position groups. That was his team. That was his sideline. And so it's going to be a QB competition. They're going to treat it as such, but this is Miller Moss's job to lose. And I would be shocked if Miller Moss wasn't starting against LSU in Vegas, go time, barring any sort of
no
injury
doubt.
or whatever. Yeah, it's Miller
No
Moss.
doubt.
Miller Moss all the way. You got to go all in on Miller Moss.
Let me ask you this aspect of it. One of the things after the Holiday Bowl that I talked about was that Miller Moss, and this is no knock. Everybody took it the wrong way when I made this statement. I said Caleb Williams does some phenomenal things. Caleb Williams is one of the most athletic guys that you're going to find around. He does some things that are not on schedule, some unorthodox things. So Miller Moss didn't have that athletic ability, and he was able to just run the offense to a T, to step up in the pocket and throw. So what is your assessment on that aspect of it? And everybody thinks that I took shots, and it wasn't. I'm just saying what I saw. I saw a guy that absolutely stepped up in the pocket and didn't rely on anything else except what he knew the play was, did his check downs, and he was able to get rid of the ball extremely quick. What's your assessment on that?
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. They're two obviously very different quarterbacks. Miller Moss is no Caleb Williams. Obviously, we know he's not as athletically talented and gifted as Caleb Williams, but Miller Moss's strengths, and we knew this from high school, he gets the ball out super quick, and he's going to run the offense. And as Lincoln Riley has designed it, Caleb Williams, there was some freestyling at times. There was times where he had to use his legs to get out of situations. But because Miller can get the ball out so quickly, make those reads so quickly, he doesn't have to rely on his legs. If he's getting the ball out quick, makes the read, go with the read. And we saw what that can look like in the Holiday Bowl. So I see how people maybe misinterpreted you taking shots, but you're just talking about how different of a quarterback they are. And, sometimes Caleb Williams can get away with freestyling a little bit or moving away from what the intended goal of the play was because he's so athletically gifted. Miller Moss, not athletically gifted like that,
right?
But he knows his strengths. It's reading the defense. It's making those reads, getting the ball out quickly, because Miller Moss does not want to be running for his life. He does not want to be juking back and forth like Caleb can do. He's going to have to get that ball out quick. That's what he did in the Holiday Bowl. 6 touchdown passes, I think, speaks for itself.
No doubt. I totally agree. Johnny Carter, hey, shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. As we get ready to wind this down, I want to ask a question as we get ready to close it up. Realistically, though, Chris, and I really appreciate your insight, man. Appreciate everything you've already stated here on the show. Realistically, what is a realistic expectation this coming fall for USC when you look at the schedule? And I guess I'll ask you the second question, but what's a realistic expectation?
I think the realistic expectation should be it's so tough, but I think 9 wins is a realistic expectation for a first year in the Big Ten. Look, 9 wins in their first year in the Big Ten with the schedule that they have, I think would be really good. Now, the schedule looks a little different based on the last several months, with Washington, Caleb DeBoer leaving and Michigan, Jim Harbaugh leaving. They'll be in a little bit of a rebuild mode. So those games will still be tough to win on the road. I think USC can beat LSU on the road.
I think so too.
Excuse me, in the neutral site in Vegas.
Right.
So if they beat LSU to kick things off, you got to get the defense going. They have talent. We know this. They have talent. So there's still some holes to fix. But I think expectation-wise, 9 wins should be is doable. I think it's doable.
Absolutely.
And that's based off, the goodwill that USC bought with the Holiday Bowl performance. You saw what the offense could look like with the Miller Moss. They still need to get the offensive line good to go. That'll be a big part of it. And obviously, Danson Lynn and that defense need to show a good amount of improvement from the worst USC defense
Yeah.
statistically in program history. So they're already rock bottom. They only have up to go. So if he even gets like half of the improvement that he got at UCLA, yeah, I think 9 wins is in the realm of possibility, even with the difficult schedule that they have.
Right. And you kind of know the landscape of each team, and you kind of gonna answer my next question, because if we get to 9 wins, that means it's a possibility. My next question was going to be, can USC make the playoffs? Now, the playoffs right now, they have it to where I think Oregon, Michigan, I can't remember the other teams. It's four Big Ten teams that'll be making it in. But I think that a lot of people are not factoring in Michigan. They're losing their quarterback. They're losing the running back. They lost their defensive coordinator. They lost their defensive analyst, losing several guys. And I think that it took Jim Harbaugh years to get to the last 3 years, really, a mature class. They have the most players right now, 18 players to go in the draft right now, to get invited to the combine. So Michigan is losing a whole lot, and I don't think a lot of analysts are factoring that. They're kind of going off of what's happened this year with the national championship. And so I really think that moves USC into a place and a spot to where they really can make themselves available for a playoff spot, man. So 9 wins, I think, it will definitely get us into a playoff spot. You think we can make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, just with the expanded field, I think everyone obviously has a better chance to get to the playoff. Everyone's chances are raised instead of the four teams. And sure, I will what's the word I'm looking for? I will allow any conversations that people want to have about potentially making the college football playoff. But again, they got to get the defense. It's got to show major signs of life, and they have to fix the offensive line. I think everything else is in play for them. They have, one of the best young receiver corps in the country.
Right.
You have a leader in Miller Moss that show he can get the ball out and make plays and make this offense go. So you put that together with USC fans crossing their fingers that Danson Lynn can turn this defense around and get you those results in year one. Yeah, we can have those discussions about USC. I wouldn't say they're in the discussion, but I'd say they're kind of a dark horse team.
Yeah.
Maybe they can make that push. Again, that LSU game is going to tell us a lot about what the trajectory of this team is. They go out there and beat LSU. Well, okay. Well, they're going to be shooting up the top 25, and they're going to be on the hype train with this thing. They go out and lose close loss, and they show some fight on defense. We'll talk about maybe this will be a good springboard for them. But if they get blown out, there's lots of different things that can happen in that first game, especially against a big opponent like LSU. It's going to tell us everything we need to know about this team. I think they could do it, but again, a lot of things have to go right for them.
Yeah, no doubt. I totally agree. Half-breed, and I got one more question for you, Chris. Half-breed, thank you for the super chat. USCJ, you're our voice for men and women of Troy. You have our very own great guest with What's Up for Chris Trevino. You're doing a great job on the tunnel vision. We're RSC, fight on. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And so the last thing, Chris, before we wrap it up, is we got a new defensive staff, and they had a press conference. And my question to you is, who was the most impressive coach during that press conference, and why?
So going into that press conference, everyone was excited about Eric Henderson, Coach Henny. That was the star of the media debuts, and he lived up to those expectations. He was charismatic. You can see why kids love him. He said he had that confidence of a guy who's coached the greatest defensive player of his generation in the NFL. So you saw all that. But for me, the big coach that
I know who you're gonna say.
Yeah. It was Matt Entz for me. And
No doubt.
Just listening to him speak, you can go the interview and the presser is on, YouTube. You can find it. Just the way I would have bet if I had known who was the former head coach out of the group, I would have bet my entire life on it being Matt Entz. That's the way he carried himself, and just the way he spoke, and I don't know. I just felt like connected to what he was saying. And again, it's a press conference in February. It's hard to lose a press conference in February, but you just felt like this was a guy who can get some change going in a linebacker room that has been struggling for several cycles and several seasons. And I love what he said about forced communication with his linebackers. Like, I need to know how to make this defense better, how to make you guys better. What was going wrong last year? Just tell me what was going wrong, and we can work on that. He said all the right things. I love the tone in which he was saying. Lincoln Riley and I think Nathan Lynn said it, that he's just tough. He's a Midwest guy. He's used to freezing weathers in South Dakota. This man knows about toughness. So you're hoping, as a USC fan, that you can see that be instilled in this linebacker room, which I think can be very talented. They have so much talent in that room.
Yeah.
They have so much talent in that room. It just needs to be unlocked. And I think Matt Entz is a guy who's going to unlock some good things for the USC linebackers next year.
No, Chris, I couldn't even agree with you more, man. Eric Henderson was he was impressive as well. But Matt Entz, some of the things that he said, especially, I think he even kind of alluded to, he saw some players on tape. That let me know that he's already studied. He saw some players on tape that were in position that just missed tackles. So that let me know that, look, he's already put boots on the ground. This man is literally studying these guys' film from last year. And he's pretty much saying that, look, the best man win, and you got to do your job. And so I really can kind of feel that. And then he kind of alluded to Eric Gentry, getting up to 220 pounds. I really kind of like the fact that he's on the roster right now, and I can appreciate that. And so to your point, I really, really appreciate it, man. So look, Chris, I didn't want to hold you over an hour, and I you took out the time, man. We got 180 people that were in here, man. So I definitely appreciate it. Any last things you want to say before we get out of here, Chris?
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much for having me on. I have a question for you. I need to know about Lost in the Sauce, because this has been a consistent thing in the chat. So I need to know. I need some more background on being lost in the sauce. And apparently I'm lost in the sauce right now. So I just need to know a little bit of context for it.
Matter of fact, I got to send you a hat, man. You just got to give me a dress where I can sit. Man, I'm going to tell you what, man. It's kind of something that I said. I grew up in LA area. That's some of the things that we said, lost in the sauce, on it, popping, on it, cracking it. I end up saying it so much, especially when people are lost in the sauce, because, they're lost in the sauce. I end up making it the podcast name, USCJ Lost in the Sauce Podcast. And so now I got merch on there, and I got to get you a hat, Chris. It's on me, man. But that's what it is, man. Lost in the sauce. If you're not doing your job, if you're talking against the program and you don't have factual information, you are absolutely lost in the sauce, period.
Okay. Thank you for the breakdown. I just wanted the more context. That's what I needed.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So I definitely appreciate you. And Chris, thank you for everything you do for the Trojan family, man. We all follow you, man, and we see everything you're doing, your great work, and we definitely appreciate you. And so, look, I'm out of here until later on. Listen, everybody stay blessed. Fight on, fight on, fight on.